We're going to move into talking about our local terrestrial and aquatic biomes. Just a heads up for some of these slides, I'm just going to leave them up, let you write down the list of characteristics rather than me reading them to you. So for those slides, there will just be an awkward pause where I don't say anything. You can pause the video for as long as you need to, write down your list of characteristics of these ecosystems, and then move on to the next one by starting the video up again. So our local biomes are essentially four major types. We have two terrestrial types and two aquatic types that are major biomes in our region. So a biome is essentially a large-scale community that is determined by the climate. So these tend to cover large regions and have very specific temperature and precipitation characteristics. Biomes don't have to be large. They can be. And the two main terrestrial biomes in our area are rather large parts of the United States as a whole and North America as a whole. So biomes are either characterized as aquatic or terrestrial. And as I said, each one is going to be defined by specific temperature and precipitation ranges. So this graph on the right just shows the relationship between temperature and precipitation. So on the bottom we have temperature, so high temperatures on the right-hand side, high amounts of precipitation on the top, showing the higher end of the y-axis. So you can see that our biome with the highest temperature and precipitation is going to be our tropical rainforest, which makes sense based on our discussions in the first video for chapter 45, where we talk about the sun hitting the equator and having the most intense direct sunlight there, causing the most rainfall. And then you can see we have other combinations of temperature and precipitation for these different biomes. The major biomes in the Midwest are going to be the temperate deciduous and the temperate grassland biome. So you can see that these ones have sort of an intermediate temperature and low to intermediate rainfall compared to the others. There are 10 biomes altogether. Depending where you look online, you might see some other categories, some sort of sub-biomes that work in these lists. We're just going to go off the 10. The only ones that you have to know are going to be the ones that are listed in this lecture. So we're going to cover 3 biomes: temperate deciduous, temperate grassland, and tropical forests. Kind of lumped the 2 tropical forests together. The others, you are welcome to look up in your textbook if you are interested in them, but you are not required to know them for the exams. So 10 major terrestrial biomes listed in our textbook. These are based on global climate patterns. So if you look at the 30 degrees north and 30 degrees south, these are our regions with deserts. So we've got desert biomes there. We've got our tropical biomes along the equator, and then we get our more temperate biomes as we move north of 30 degrees and south of 30 degrees until we get to our poles, where we then have our Arctic biomes. This image here shows the 10 biomes that our textbook covers. We can look more specifically at the United States and Illinois. In Illinois and in Missouri, our 2 main biomes are going to be the temperate deciduous. So deciduous are trees that are characterized by dropping their leaves in the fall, so they turn colors and then drop. This would be as opposed to evergreen forests like in the northern latitudes of the United States, where most of the trees don't drop their leaves. And then we also have the temperate grassland. So this is going to be the Midwestern prairie that you are all pretty familiar with. And historically, a lot of Illinois, especially essentially the higher more northern 2/3 of Illinois, were the temperate grassland. So this is the historical native biomes of Illinois. You can see the distribution of biomes in the United States here. Some of them have slightly different names, and some of them have names that are not listed on the previous one. Don't worry too much about the names here. What I want you to notice here is that we mostly have this eastern deciduous forest in Illinois and Missouri. And then there are some prairies and grasslands. And then we've, of course, got the Great Plains grasslands through the center of the United States. On the coasts, we have some more specific biomes for those regions. And again, you can look them up if you are interested. So as I mentioned, in the Midwest, we have two major biomes. We've got that temperate, deciduous, and grasslands. So Illinois is roughly here right along the border. So depending on where exactly you are, you may see one or both of them in Illinois and Missouri. So our main biome now is the temperate deciduous forest. In Illinois, a lot of the prairies have been plowed under for agriculture. We still have the temperature and precipitation that characterizes the grassland regions, especially as we move farther west into the traditional Great Plains region. But most of the prairie habitat has been removed for agriculture in Illinois. So you can see the list of common characteristics here. You will be responsible for knowing the general characteristics of the temperature and precipitation, any seasonal changes, and then the plant and animal life for each of these biomes. So we're going to need to know temperature and precipitation patterns. We're going to need to know general seasons, and you all live here, so you should know the general seasons and the general temperature and precipitation patterns, and then also the types of plants specifically that dominate and the types of animals that we have here. So this one is not going to be anything surprising to you. Cold winters, hot, dry summers, we get some snow. And then, of course, we have the temperate grasslands in Missouri and in Illinois. And then our temperate grasslands spread west into the Midwest. Our deciduous forest spreads east towards the East Coast. So grasslands tend to be a little more extreme than the deciduous regions. The other biome that you're responsible for learning is the tropical forest and tropical rainforest biomes. They may also be called the temperate rainforest. The difference between the tropical temperate and the tropical rain is simply the amount of precipitation that happens. So a rainforest is going to have far more rain than a tropical temperate forest. But the reason that I ask you to learn these is that this is where most of our primary production is going to happen. Tropical forests are also going to be the highest biodiversity of all of our biomes. In our area, we also have two major aquatic biomes. Again, there are more biomes than we are studying here, but the two that are most important in our region are going to be the river biome and the lake biome. The other major biomes are going to be the marine biome. So we are all freshwater here. Marine biomes are going to be your intertidal zones and then your salty ocean zones. So again, you only are responsible for the ones that we actually cover in lecture, and you are more than welcome to read up about the other ones in your textbook. So in Illinois and Missouri, you are well aware that we've got rivers, specifically the mighty Mississippi. We also have the Missouri River, the Illinois, and the Ohio rivers. Those are all flowing through our region. River habitats are important because they are very different than lake habitats because of the movement of water. So the nutrient availability is different, oxygen availability is different, and they support different types of organisms. There are also different rates at which the water flows in different regions of the same river. So you can have very diverse habitats in the same river. And then, of course, one of the large river systems like the Illinois and Missouri rivers are going to flow for thousands of miles. And so you are supporting thousands of miles of riverside habitats. You've got tributaries flowing into these rivers, moving nutrients around in the areas. And then, of course, also our rivers overflow, which is a problem when they overflow into the city. But when they overflow into natural spaces, they actually replenish a lot of nutrients into the soil that would have run off. We have a really special, sort of unique local habitat in our area. So just north of the St. Louis area, up in the Alton and Grafton areas of Illinois, we have the Mississippi and Missouri confluence area. So this is not a biome. It's essentially a massive river feature. And a confluence is where two rivers come together. So they mix up there at Grafton, and they are important because you get two big bodies of water coming into a single channel. And the reason that this is important is that it churns up the water there. It distributes nutrients, it changes the flow, it changes the water chemistry. And so confluence areas are really important natural habitats where you get a unique distribution of organisms. The Mississippi and Missouri confluence is where the two longest rivers in the United States come together. And just a fun fact, that makes the fourth largest river system in the world. Having lived here for a while, you probably all know that St. Louis area and the Mississippi River was super important for westward expansion. So it was a jumping off point for the westward movement. And the river system, the Mississippi River system and the Missouri River system were really important in moving supplies and moving people into the interior western part of the United States and into the northern part of the United States. Of course, both rivers were also important in shipping and trade. But we are not here for social and historical context, but it is really important for biology. The Mississippi River also supports what we call the Mississippi Flyway. So this is one of the major migratory routes for birds in the United States on their migration routes from between Canada and Mexico. So there are 4 major flyways, north and south flyways, where birds migrate through those regions. So we have a lot of transient birds coming in and out, in addition to our local native species. Next, we have our lake habitat. So we have quite a few lakes here, not as many lakes as some other areas. The difference between lakes and rivers is how much the water is moving. So a river may flow into a lake or out of a lake, but the lake itself is going to be relatively still. And so that's going to allow for very different organisms and habitats than our river systems do. And then finally, we get to open ocean. There are more marine environments than just open ocean. But the reason that I stop here on open ocean is that is the world's most extensive biome and covers approximately 70% of the surface of the earth. So we have a lot of plant life, we have a lot of animal life. Phytoplankton and kelp are two of our primary producers in the open ocean, so providing that primary source of energy for ocean-dwelling creatures. We won't spend a lot of time talking about animals in the open ocean or ocean ecology, but it is really important for our whole understanding of aquatic ecosystems and ecosystems on Earth.